At one point, console-exclusive games were the norm. Now, the idea of exclusives is fading. In the past few years, this has become obvious. Since the current generation of consoles began, Xbox has made it clear that the idea of an Xbox-only game was going away. All of Xbox's large AAA exclusives also come to PC. Moreover, these titles are not always exclusive from PlayStation either, such as the case with Xbox's Indiana Jones, Doom, and other games. On the other side, PlayStation exclusives are releasing with PC versions a lot more often, either on the game's initial release or within 1 year afterward. But then there's Nintendo, who provides great exclusives and has no plans on putting any of their exclusive games on competing consoles. Because of this, I do not think console exclusives will ever truly die, at least not for a long time. However, with the Switch 2 coming, there will be a different type of exclusive that will die, namely the next-gen exclusive. As I have discussed in a previous video, I do not like the idea of cross-gen gaming lasting as long as it has this generation, as I believe cross-gen games have held back these current consoles. Though I continue to have this sentiment, it is becoming more likely that the next generation of consoles will have no or very few games that will be exclusive to those next-gen consoles. There are a few reasons as to why this can potentially be the case. First, games are becoming more scalable. For better or worse, graphics in gaming are becoming more and more stagnant. Looking at the games that came out at the beginning of this generation versus the ones releasing now, there has not been a noticeable upgrade in fidelity. Unlike previous generations, like the PS4 and Xbox One generation, there were games that came out at the end of the console's life that looked noticeably better than what we had at the beginning. Thus, in theory, since games are not looking largely better, developers should have an easier time scaling their games down so that more consoles can play the game. A great current example of how far this can be taken is with Hogwarts Legacy. It's a newer game, but can run on the Switch with heavy compromises. Though the game does not look the best, it's a perfect example of how to successfully scale a game back to work on weaker hardware. At the end of the day, Hogwarts Legacy can be played on every last-gen and current-gen console as well as PC, and that's the strategy many developers and companies have moving forward. Thus, the PS5 and Xbox Series X should still be viable machines heading into the next generation due to this. Devs will want to get their games on Switch 2, and if it runs on Switch 2, it will also run on last-gen consoles, which at the time would be PS5 and Xbox Series X. Being more than halfway done this generation, it seems clear developers are not fully taking advantage of these consoles, so it would not be surprising if games keep coming out for these consoles as devs have more time developing on them. Second, upscaling tech will likely be available for Switch 2, which will further help developers put their games on the console. If implemented well, upscalers can help run games on consoles and GPUs that would otherwise be out of date. Because of this, the Switch 2 and current-gen consoles have a greater ability to play future games than previous consoles have. Thus, it makes sense that developers would choose to put their games on Switch 2 if it can run it. Now at this point, I keep saying developers will want to put their game on Switch 2, and that is because they have an obvious incentive. Their game will likely get many more sales on the platform. Putting your game on as many platforms as possible just makes financial sense. Switch 1 has sold over 150 million units, so there is a huge install base to take advantage of, even if Switch 2 doesn't sell quite as well. It has become more and more expensive to create games, inherently meaning it is harder to recoup the cost of the game's development and turn a profit. This console generation shows having games on few consoles can be a problem for sales, while cross-gen games or non-exclusive games are more likely to sell well. Essentially, there is more sales potential because there are more gamers who can access and play the game. Thus, Switch 2 is a sign of the times changing for the rest of the industry. It makes too much sense that developers and companies will want their game on Switch 2. So, if there's a next-gen game for the PlayStation 6 or next Xbox that is also being developed for Switch 2, then that also means it can definitely run on PS5 and Xbox One. While Sony keeps releasing their games on PC, there are rumors of more and more Xbox games coming to PlayStation and allegedly the Switch 2. Not to mention exclusive third-party games rumored to be coming to Switch 2 as well. Ultimately, this all likely means one thing. The idea of only creating games for the next generation of consoles is all but dead. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.